بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء واتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما أما بعد فإن أصدق الحديث كتاب الله وخير حدي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وشر الأمور محدثاتها وكل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة وكل ضلالة في النار وبعد والحمد لله ونفضل Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we are able to begin and commence with a new series of lessons which no doubt we hope we ask Allah Ta'ala to make them a benefit for us in the dunya and the akhirah. And these series of lessons will be covering the book by Imām al-Barbahārī, Sharḥ as-Sunnah, which is an outline of the creed of Ahl-Sunnah wal Jama'ah, the correct creed, the correct manhaj. And primarily we'll be using the explanation of Shaykh Ṣāliḥ in his book Ikhtilāf al-Qari. However, we'll mention other benefits from other mashayikh along the way. Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala knows best. The reason why we decided to choose this particular book to go through and try and bi'idhnillahi ta'ala complete this book, it's no doubt it's from the books that carry great importance when it comes to a person understanding the correct creed, understanding the affair of Tawḥīd, understanding the manhaj of the Salaf, and what does it mean to be upon the correct methodology, and how is that methodology implemented, and how was it implemented by those that preceded us. And this no doubt is something which is a foundation in our practice of Islam. Foundation in our practice of Islam, how to know the practice and implementation of the correct creed. And so inshallah we'll begin by reading through the Muqaddimah, the introduction of Shaykh Fawzān, the Mu'alliq, the one that is commenting on the speech of al-Barbahārī. And his beginning of his speech, and Allah Ta'ala knows best. And so, the Shaykh begins by way of the statement, Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, wa sallallahu wa sallam ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa ashabi ajma'in. His هذا الكتاب مؤلفه al-Barbahārī. So the author of this book is al-Barbahārī, واسمه الحسن ابن علي ابن خلف al-Barbahārī، نسبة إلى البربهار، وهو نوع من الأدوية التي لعله كان يشتغل بها أو يبيعها. And so his name, the author's name is Hassan ibn Ali ibn Khalaf al-Barbahārī. And this word al-Barbahārī, is in reference to what is referred to as Barbahār. Barbahār is a form or a type of adwiya, a type of medication. Barbahār is a type of medication. And so it's understood from this that the Imam, raḥimahullāh, used to do works with this medication or sell it. And so thus you find that he is ascribed to it, that he has a description to it, and the Barbahār. And this is something which is not unknown, or this is something which isn't strange when it comes to the A'immah or some individuals, that the nisbah, them being ascribed to something, may not be an ascription to a particular place or a particular tribe, which is common one, which is commonly known. So commonly a person will be ascribed to his tribe or ascribed to the place of where he is born or the place where he is known to be from. However, a person may be ascribed to a particular work that he does, or something that he's known for, as that inscription becomes well known. And this is the nature of a laqab. The laqab, the inscription and the term for an individual, may not be specifically in reference to a family or place. And the Imam, as mentioned here by al-Fawzān, hafidhahullāh, هو من كبار الحنابلة أخذ عن من أخذ الإمام أحمد. And so he is from the kibar of the Hanabila. So he's from amongst the major scholars of the Hanabila, يعني the scholars upon the madhab of Imam Ahmad. And so he took from those that took from Imam Ahmad, Miflul and Marwadi. So he took from those that took from Imam Ahmad. And so he was from those that took from, who studied under the Tulab of Imam Ahmad, the Kibar of the Tulab of Imam Ahmad. Hence he's from the Kibar, the major A'immah, from amongst those that were the Hanabila. Thereafter, Shaykh goes to mention, وَتَبَحَّرْ فِي الْعِلْمِ وأخذ العقيدة وأخذ الفقه وأخذ العلم عن كبار الأئمة. And so he thereafter sought vast amounts of knowledge. تبحر فيه, يعني sought knowledge to the extent that it's like a sea. And he studied from it aqīdah as well as fiqh and general knowledge, the knowledge of the deen, and he took this knowledge from the major imams in deen. But this is a short biography of Imām al-Barbahārī, and the author of the book. As for thereafter, then Shaykh José goes on to mention the discussion about the name of the book itself, al-Ism al-Kitab. The name of the book is Sharḥ as-Sunnah. وَالْمُرَادُ بِالسُّنَّةِ طَرِيقَةُ الرَّسُولِ صلى الله عليه وسلم. So this word, in this name of the book here, Sharḥ as-Sunnah, what is intended by the word Sunnah is the way of the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم. ليس المراد بها المعنى مصطلح عند المحدثين. أنه ما ثبت عن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم من قول أو فعل أو تقرير. So when we say the Sunnah here, it's not the Sunnah with the terminology of the Muhaddithin. So when the Muhaddithin refer to a Sunnah, then they're referring to, no doubt, that which is affirmed from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, whether it be speech, his actions, as well as his silent approvals. And others other than that as well. So depending upon who is describing or using this word as sunnah, then the word sunnah can differ in meaning. Depending upon who's using the word sunnah, the word sunnah can differ in meaning. So if you're referring to, as mentioned here, al-hadith, al-muhaddithun, are using the term sunnah, then they intend that which is affirmed or ascribed to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam from speech, action, or silent approval. This is what they mean by sunnah. If you were to say a sunnah in relation to the fuqaha, then what would that mean? You don't know. If you say sunnah by the fuqaha, it's called a fiqh.
That which is mustahab.
Now, that which is mustahab. So if the scholars of fiqh refer to a sunnah, then they're referring to an action which is rewarded if you do it. And if you don't do it, then you're not punishable by way of it. You're not blameworthy. I said mustahab. And likewise you have the definition of sunnah amongst the mu'arrikheen as well. Those that are the scholars of history. And they refer to the sunnah as the same as seerah. And their definition is similar to the definition of the muhaddithin. However, here we have the definition of a sunnah, meaning the tariqat al-rasul, and the way of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And so, a sunnah here essentially is ma yukhalif al-bid'ah. And so, this terminology here, sunnah, is that which opposes innovation, bid'ah. And when the groups started to become apparent over the years, so the group started to split off and become apparent over the years, then the imams in aqīdah saw the need to offer books in relation to the sunnah of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the correct creed, the correct aqīdah. Hence why you find within this period of time, as a response and as a refutation to the widespread innovations that have started to appear, the imams started to write books in relation to the correct creed with the name of sunnah. So here, Bidʿah, so this book that we have here is the Sharḥ as-Sunnah by al-Barbahārī. Likewise, we have Usul as-Sunnah. We have Usul as-Sunnah by Ahmed, or Usul as-Sunnah by al-Humaydi, or that was referred to really as as-Sunnah, Ibn Khallād, for example. And so, the intent here with the Sunnah is, as mentioned, is a'am, is more general. And it's everything that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was upon, his tariqah. Wa tariqah Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Wa tariqah ashabihi radiyallahu anhum. Wa tariqah Salaf Ṣāliḥ. And so the tariqah is the way of the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It's the way of the companions, and it's the way of the Salaf Ṣāliḥ. هذه هي السنة معفورة سواء في الاعتقاد أو في العبادة أو في الفقه أو في الآداب والأخلاق كل هذا يسمى بالسنة من حيث العموم. So whether it be sunnah and that which has been recorded as being from the sunnah in the way of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, his companions, and the Salaf Ṣāliḥ, all of that is regarded as being the sunnah, whether it be in regards to creed, ibadah, yani worship, fiqh, or mannerisms and characteristics. All of that is under the general term as sunnah. فقد يذكر مسائل فقهية مثل المس على الخفين ونكاح المتعة من باب الرد على الفرق الضالة وخالف فيها. And so what you find within these books, they will mention some masail fiqhiyah as well, because all of it is encompassed of the sunnah. So they'll mention some masail, some issues in fiqh. From the issues in fiqh that they will mention is masḥ ala khuffayn, the best wiping over the socks. Why? Because you may find that some of the firq ad-dāla, the misguided groups, they will make a point that they will make inkar, they will reject this affair of wiping over the socks. And so, even though it's a mas'ala in fiqh, it's an issue in regards to the fiqh, it will be mentioned within these books of Sunnah and the books of aqīdah to distinguish the way of Ahlul Sunnati wal Jama'ah by way of them affirming that which is rejected by Ahlul Bidʿah. Likewise as well, for the issues mentioned here, is the nikah al-mut'ah. The nikah al-mut'ah, which was previously halal. Previously mentioned as halal. However, thereafter, the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam prohibited it. This was only continued by those that are misguided and those that oppose the haqq from the raḥidah. And so in order to make the distinction between those upon the haqq and those upon the sunnah in relation to this particular mas'ala, then this mas'ala is mentioned, and the mut'ah. And the reality is, not only do the raḥidah and these individuals from the raḥidah and Shia, not only do they still regard it as being permissible and make the judgment that it's permissible, which is in opposition to the truth, they go into excess with that as well. And you'll find that they will mention when it comes to this affair of mut'ah in a temporary marriage, that they will say and they will equate it to rewards of such and such. If a person does this, if he marries one temporarily, then he'll gain this amount of reward. If he marries two temporarily, he'll gain this amount of reward. So they not only do they place it as something permissible, but they place within it and emphasize within it, and they go into ghulu, excessiveness and extremism with it, by way of mentioning large amounts of reward in relation to it. A large amount of reward in relation to doing this action and with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And that it's like doing, for example, Umrah with the Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam, or the likes of that. And so, it's a must that the individuals that oppose this make this clear that they oppose these people of innovation in every way, shape and form. The reality is, as mentioned by Shaykhana, Shaykh Ali Nasir al-Faqīhi, when he mentions this affair of mut'ah, he says that these scholars from amongst the raḥidah, they will say, it's permissible. And again, as we mentioned, go into extremes with it. Say that it's not only permissible, but there's great reward in doing so. I reward in this temporary marriage, this mut'ah. However, this is the fatwa that they issue lighayr. They will issue this fatwa for others. And you will not find that they will make ikhtilāf and give up their own daughters for this particular marriage. Rather, they will give fatwa for others. But when it comes to those within their own families, their own daughters and the likes of that, no. They will not want that for them. And so, this is the indication as well that some practices of Ahlul Bid'ah, some of their practices are practices that are with the intent of being mukhalif al-haqq. They intend to just oppose the truth. And they don't intend, by way of those practices, to adhere to something, to adhere to principles. Because rather, when these principles are brought forth, are brought close to home, then they reject them. And so these are some of the masail that we mentioned within these books as well. And likewise, the Shaykh mentions, وقد يكرر بعض المسائل من باب التأكيد أو لتكرر مناسبة ذكرها أو لزيادة بيان فيها أو لغير ذلك من الأغراض العلمية، وبالجملة فهو كتاب مفيد. And so you may find that some issues are repeated. Some of them are repeated due to the fact that within this repetition is more emphasis and to emphasize particular issues. And generally you find that within this repetition is the general benefit for the one that is reading and the one that is attentive to it. وتأتي أهميته من قدره فهو من كتب السلف. نعم، من كتب السلف الأقدمين الذين عاصروا أئمة الكبار وأخذوا عنهم ورأوا عقيدتهم الصافية ورحمهم الله بالإمام الجليل. And so this book, or these are Masail, you find within the books of the Salaf, those who have preceded. Those books of those individuals that lived amongst the major Imams of Deen and took from them and narrated from them their aqīdah, the clear aqīdah. And so thus, may Allah Ta'ala have mercy upon this Imam. Thereafter, so this is the understanding of the word of Sunnah. Thereafter, we have understanding of the word Sharḥ. The Sharḥ, أي بيان ليس معناه أنه يشرح كتابا معينا. And so the word Sharḥ here, meaning that it is bayan, it's clarification. So Sharḥ as-Sunnah, the title of the book, Sharḥ as-Sunnah, is not an explanation, rather, or an explanation of a particular book. Rather, it is a clarification of the Sunnah, ay tariqat al-Rasul, wa ashab al-Rasul, wa Salaf Ṣāliḥ. It's clarified in a particular way. وإنما معناه أن يوضح طريقة السنة، هذا معنى شرح السنة. And so, as mentioned, the meaning, what is intended here, is that it clarifies the way of the Sunnah. And this is what is meant by the title Sharḥ as-Sunnah. كانوا أوائل يسمون كتب العقيدة بالسنة، مثل هذا الكتاب، ومثل السنة الإمام أحمد، والسنة لابنه عبد الله، والسنة للأفرد، وشرح الأصول اعتقاد أهل السنة والجماعة للالكائي، وكذلك يسمونها الإيمان. فيوضع في بعض الكتب كتاب يسمى كتاب الإيمان كما هو موجود في صحيح البخاري ومسلم، ويعقدون كتابا ويسمونها كتاب الإيمان. And so, as we mentioned, some of the books of those that are preceded from the Imams, they refer to it as a Sunnah. And the books of Aqīdah refer to it as Sunnah. For example, the Sunnah of Imam Ahmad, or the Sunnah of his son Abdullah, or the Sunnah of Afra, or the Sunnah or Sharḥ Usul I'tiqād Ahl al-Sunnah wal Jamā'ah by al-Laka'i. All of these are referred to as Sunnah. Likewise, you may have a book that is referred to as Iman. And so some of the books are referred to as Al-Iman. For example, Kitab al-Iman, the book of Iman. And that book which is referred to as Kitab al-Iman, and that is which is found in Sahih Bukhari or Muslim. And so they refer to this as Kitab al-Iman. And within these chapters found in the Kitab al-Iman, in Bukhari or Muslim, they would record and they would mention and narrate the ahadith يختص بالعقيدة. They mention the narrations which are specific to عقيدة. من الإيمان بالله وملائكته وكتبه ورسله واليوم الآخر وقدره وقدر خيره وشره يسمونها الإيمان. So you find that some of the ahadith are mentioned, and these ahadith are mentioned in relation to Iman, belief in Allah, the angels, the books, the messengers, Yawm al-Akhir, the Qadr, the good of it and the bad. And they refer to it as Iman. وقد يسمونها Sharia. And sometimes you have the books that refer to it as the Sharia. So sometimes you mentioned you have Sunnah or Iman or Sharia. Like a Sharia by Ajuri, الشافعي. وقد يسمونها التوحيد مثل كتاب التوحيد لابن خزيمة. Or you have كتاب التوحيد لابن خزيمة. وكتب التوحيد معروفة وتسمى العقيدة وهو يعتقده القلب ويدين به ويجزم به. So we have these books and they have these particular titles. So you have the title Sunnah, you have the title of Iman, you have the title of Tawḥīd, you have the title of Sharia. And we understand from this is that they are all one and the same when it comes to the meaning. All one and the same when it comes to the meaning. And these are books of aqīdah. And these are books that deal with the affair of the correct creed, the way of the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, his companions, and the Salaf Ṣāliḥ. They're all one and the same. So even though they may differ in terms of the alfāz, in terms of the wordings, the meanings are one and the same. The meanings are one and the same. وهذه أسماء كلها لا اختلاف بينها فهي أسماء متعددة لشيء واحد فهذه من المترادفات ولا مشاحة في الأسماء. إذا علم المراد فليس هذا من اختلاف وإنما هذا من اصطلاح وكل اصطلاح له الوجه فلا اختلاف بينهم في ذلك وإنما اختلاف الألفاظ ومعنى واحد. And as we mentioned, so we may find that these names differ. Now, they have this, some of them are Sunnah, some of them are Sharia, some of them are Iman, some are Tawḥīd. They're different names. However, and the names may be many and different. However, they are mutaradif. Mutaradif meaning that they carry the same meaning. Now that they have different words, but they carry the same meaning. And there is no difference when it comes to the murad, the intent of the book. And this is the istilah. And every istilah, every terminology has a particular reason why that one is being used. أما من ينكر هذا ويقول عقيدة والتوحيد اصطلاح ليس عليه دليل وليس هو موجودا في القرآن ولا في السنة فهذا تشكيك يريدون به نعم أن يجتثوا هذه العقيدة فجاءوا بهذا الكلام من أجل أن يميز بين الفرق الضالة والفرق المستقيمة. هذا هو الذي غاضهم ومن أجل أن لا يردوا على أهل الباطل. هذا قصد متعلمين منهم. أما الحمج والرعاء الذين يأخذون من مزابل الأفكار فهم يرددون هذه الأقوال كما في بعض الصحف وفي بعض ما يسمونها مؤلفات. And so the Shaykh goes to mention, as for those that wish to reject this, and they say this terminology Aqīdah or Tawḥīd, these are terminologies do not have any proof, and they're not found in the Quran nor the Sunnah. Then this is merely the actions of those that are seeking to throw doubt upon this affair of Aqīdah and his creed. And so thus they seek to come with this speech. Because they do not intend or want for there to be a distinction between the groups that are upon misguidance, nor those that are upon istiqamah, those that are upright. And so this is their intent with that. So that those people of innovation and people of falsehood cannot be rejected and refuted. And this is their intent of such individuals and what they seek to achieve from that. And in reality, the truth is that this is something which is found in the Quran and Sunnah. For example, you have the hadith of Ibn Abbas, radiyallahu anhuma, when the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam sent Mu'adh ibn Jabal to Yemen, and he says, إِنَّكَ تَأْتِي قَوْمَ أَهْلِ الْكِتَابِ فَلِكُ أَوْ مَا تَدْعُوهُمْ إِلَيْهِ شَهَادَةُ أَنْ لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا اللَّهِ. Indeed, you go to people in the book. So make the first one you call them to the shahada of La ilaha illallah. However, in another wording of this same hadith, the Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam mentions, إِنَّكَ تَأْتِي قَوْمَ أَهْلِ الْكِتَابِ فَلِكُ أَوْ مَا تَدْعُوهُمْ إِلَيْهِ أَيْ يُوَحِّدَ اللَّهِ. In the first one you call them to, أي يوحد الله. أي يوحد الله. They need this word in Tawḥīd. وحد يوحد توحيدا. And so this is a wording which is rather found in the Sunnah. And this rejection of this wording, a rejection of the word Tawḥīd and the likes of that, as mentioned, is nothing but a practice of those seeking to throw doubt upon those that seek to make this affair, the correct creed, distinct. وهذا الشيء درجت عليه الأمة واهتموا به تمييزا بين الحق والباطل وبين الهدى والضلال ولكن أولئك لهم قصد في هذا. And so this is something which has occurred with the Ummah, that there is great importance given to distinguishing between the truth and falsehood, and distinguishing between guidance and misguidance. However, those that make these claims, they have a particular intent with that. هم يريدون أن يدمجوا الناس ولا يكون هناك فارق بين الملحد والزنديق ومستقيم ومبتدئ وإنما يبقون تحت مظلة اسم الإسلام. And so, when they say these things, they intend by way of that there is no distinction between anyone. There's no distinction between the one that is upon this affair of atheism, whilst making it to Islam, or the one that is a heretic, or the one that is upright, or the one that is an innovator. There is no distinction made between any of them. All of them remain with this ascription to Islam. And they say, this is the ajli Tawḥīd al-Muslimīn, biza'bihim. They say that this is so that they can maintain the unity of the Muslims. This is their claim. فَنَقُولُ لَهُمْ الْمُسْلِمُونَ لَا يَحْتَحِدُونَ إِلَّا عَلَى عَقِيدَةٍ صَحِيحَةٍ. And we say in response to that the Muslims do not unite except upon the correct creed. العقيدة التي جمعت الصحابة. The aqīdah which brought the companions together. The aqīdah which united the companions. وَكَانُوا مُتَفَرِّقِينَ. Why? Because before that, they were divided. And when the aqīdah came to them, the correct creed, the correct belief came to the companions, this is what united them. This is what united them. كما قال تعالى وَاذْكُرُوا نِعْمَةَ اللَّهِ عَلَيْكُمْ إِذْ كُنْتُمْ أَعْدَاءً فَأَلَّفَ بَيْنَ قُلُوبِكُمْ. I remember, be mindful of the ni'mah, the blessing of Allah Ta'ala upon you, whilst you before you were enemies to one another, and He joined your hearts and united your hearts. And they were enemies to one another, they were united by way of that correct creed. فَمَا الَّذِي جَمَعَ بَيْنَ الصَّحَابَةِ رَضِيَ اللَّهُ عَنْهُمْ. What is it that brought the companions together? من الفرقة والتناحر? What is it that brought them together whilst they were divided? إلا هذه العقيدة, except that it was this particular creed. التي هي معنى لا إله إلا الله محمد رسول الله, which is the meaning of لا إله إلا الله محمد رسول الله. فلا يجمع الناس إلا عقيدة صحيحة. وأما أن يكونوا مختلفين في اعتقادهم فلن يجتمعوا أبدا. And so the people they will not be united and brought together except with the correct creed. As for those that differ with one another in their creed, then they will not be brought together ever. They will not be ever united. أما الاختلاف في المسائل الفقهية الاجتهادية التي يحتملها دليل فهذا لا يؤثر ولا يحدث فرقة ولا عداوة, لأن هذا اجتهاد سائغ. لكن اختلاف العقيدة غير سائغ, لا يجتمع عليه مختلفون أبدا. لا يجتمع مختلفون في العقيدة مهما حاول من حاول, لأنه يريد أن يجمع بين المتضادات ولا يمكن الجمع بين المتضادات والمتناقضات. And so, when it comes to ikhtilāfāt, differing when it comes to the affair, differing in the masail al-fiqhiyya, in issues of fiqh, now when there's ijtihād, and there's dalil, each person has their dalil, each person has proof pointing towards whichever opinion that they take, then this is something that does not have an effect upon unity, nor does it bring about splitting, nor does it bring about enmity. Why? Because this is something which is an affair of ijtihād, an affair where the person that is able and strove to come to an understanding of a particular issue. This is when it comes to fiqh and the furu' and the affairs that branch off from the foundations. لكن اختلاف في العقيدة غير صحيح. As for ikhtilāf in aqīdah, then this is something which is not allowable and permissible. And the people cannot become united upon anything whilst differing in their aqīdah, ever. Whilst they're differing in their creed, they cannot be united. And those that differ in their aqīdah, doesn't matter who tries to unite them, they will never be united. Why? Because with this they are seeking to gather and connect between things that are diametrically opposed to one another. They are directly opposed to one another. And so it's not possible that you can connect things that are directly opposed or contradict one another. And so this, barakallahu feekum here, what Shaykh Fawzān is discussing, essentially is the different, there's two types of differing. You have ikhtilāf, which is referred to as ikhtilāf tadād. Ikhtilāf tadād. And the second, which is ikhtilāf tanawwu'. Ikhtilāf tadād is ikhtilāf essentially which occurs in the usul al-deen. Ikhtilāf tadād which occurs in the usul al-deen, where it is not possible for this ikhtilāf to occur. And there's one absolute truth. Or, with adaq to be more precise, that this is different when it comes to the usul, and there's no means for a person to differ with another. They have to come to one correct understanding. This is the usul, this is the foundation. So a person cannot say that I have this particular belief when it comes to my creed, and he has this belief when it comes to his creed, and there's a degree of tasamuh. There's a degree of allowance in that regard. This is not the case when it comes to ikhtilāf tadād. And then you have ikhtilāf, the second, which is ikhtilāf al-tanawwu'. Ikhtilāf al-tanawwu' is the ikhtilāf which occurs in affairs of furu', and affairs that branch off from the foundations. When a person may have strength in speech or strength in opinion upon one affair, upon one issue, another person has another strong opinion upon the same issue, and this does not bring about, or this does not necessitate that the unity is affected. An example of that, let's say, is in the salah. When a person comes up from ruku', it could be said that the person in the salah, they place their hands back up on the chest, whilst another person in the salah may place their hands by the sides. If the person places their hands upon the chest, or the person places his hands upon the sides, this does not affect their unity and the unity that they're upon in terms of brotherhood and in terms of them being upon the sunnah. One person has an understanding of the nusus in one way, another person has an understanding of the nusus in the text in another way. Full habits. As for ikhtilāf al-tadād, then this is an affair when it comes to the usul of the deen and foundation of the deen. So, for example, a person, he believes that all of the companions are trustworthy. All of the companions of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam are trustworthy. No doubt this is the case. They're all trustworthy. All praised by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And then you have another individual that may believe that some of them are not trustworthy. So they doubt the trustworthiness of some of them. This is an affair of our foundations in deen. Why? Because it's something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has told us about, informed us about, the companions and their trustworthiness. And so now this is not something that we can, is admissible or an allowable differing when it comes to the companions, for example. And so this is just an example of how you may have these different forms of differing. And so if it is different when it comes to the usul, then there can never be unity. You cannot have unity when they're different when it comes to the usul. Hence why it's important, the importance of learning the foundations of the religion. So you know what the foundations are, so that you may bring unity upon those foundations. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best. I will conclude here, inshaAllah ta'ala, for today. And inshallah next week we'll conclude the introduction of Shaykh Fawzān. Bidʿah ta'ala. Next week we'll hope to start earlier. Just today I had other an appointment or other dars rather. So inshallah next week we intend to probably begin earlier for those that are, make it easier for those that maybe live further away. Wallahu a'lam. Jazakumullah khairan ikhwan. Wa barakallahu feekum. Sallallahu wa barak ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. No.
Question, Shaykh. Is there such thing as good bid'ah and bad bid'ah?
Is there such thing as good bid'ah and bad bid'ah? So, essentially, the short answer is no. The short answer is no. That there's no such thing as a good bid'ah. A good bid'ah essentially is an oxymoron in terms. Bid'ah is an action which has been newly invented in the religion of Islam after that which the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam has come with. And so you have the statement, for example, the statement of Imām Malik, where he says, "Man ibtada'a fi Islam bid'atan yaraha hasana." So whoever newly invents an affair in Islam and considers it to be good, it's as if he has said that Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam khana al-risala. It's as if that he said that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam betrayed us with his message. Because if we now say that the Prophet ﷺ is informed us of everything good, he's informed us of everything, he's informed us of all the forms of ibadah, how to worship Allah. Now, then a person cannot now say that I'm going to do this action that the Prophet ﷺ didn't do, but it's still going to bring me closer to Allah. Because then it would mean that he didn't tell us about this thing. And of course, his message was perfect. And his message that he came with was perfect. Allah Ta'ala informed us. اليوم أكملت لكم دينكم وأتممت عليكم نعمتي ورضيت لكم الإسلام دينا. That today I have completed my favor upon you, perfected my religion for you, and chosen Islam as your religion. And so we know that it's not possible for there to be a bid'ah, a newly invented action, which is ibadah, and it be good. Because the Prophet ﷺ, if it was good, the Prophet ﷺ would have told us. And if he told us, then it's not a bid'ah, because it's within the sunnah. Now, so that's essentially, that's one thing. Some people, they do say that there's a bid'ah hasana, a good bid'ah, when you have, or they will refer to the athar of Umar, when he saw the people establishing the qiyam, the prayer in the Ramadan. And he mentions that this bid'ah hasana. The word that he used here, bid'ah, in this narration, is not bid'ah shar'an. And it's not that this was a whole new action that people did after the Prophet ﷺ. Rather, it was a bid'ah in terms of tajdeed. It was a revival of something that the Prophet ﷺ did. So he mentioned bid'ah in terms of it was new, in relation to the people then. Now,
Sorry, repeat that again.
So it was, when he said it was a bid'ah, he didn't mean it was a bid'ah in terms it was completely new. It was a bid'ah in terms that it was new for them. It was a revival of something that the Prophet ﷺ had previously done. So it was new it was something which was relative. Relative to them it was new. But the reality was it wasn't new at all. Because the Prophet ﷺ established the salah in the night prayer and the like of that.
Okay, so the bid'ah is, it becomes bid'ah when it comes to the belief, or does it become bid'ah like for instance the Quran? At the time of the Prophet, it didn't have huruf
No.
and stuff like that. Ain't that a bid'ah?
No.
Okay.
So when it comes to anything that is done and it is an action which a person says, this is going to draw me nearer to Allah. Now, this is where we say this is a bid'ah. Where the Prophet ﷺ didn't do the action. If now, for example, using the example of the Quran, and maybe the letters are different, or the nature of letters are different. We have harakat, we have nuqati and dots and placed here to aid the person in reading, right? However, they're reciting the same ayat. They're not reciting anything new, right? So the action of reciting Quran is from the Sunnah of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This here is just to aid the person in doing that action of reciting the Sunnah. It's not something which is anything new, right? If the person now was to say, for example, I'm going to recite these ayat of Quran, and I'm going to make sure I recite this hadith, this hadith, this hadith. Specifies. And then this is now something new. Because this is now something that the Prophet ﷺ didn't legislate. Right? As for recitation of Quran, then this is something which is legislated. If now, due to maybe the weakness of the people, the weakness of the language of the people, as time goes on, they need some things to aid them in that. There's the example you gave in terms of things being added to aid them. They're reading the same ayat, however, but it's aiding them in that recitation. So it's not something which is added or changing the ibadah. It's something which is just aiding them to fulfill that ibadah which was been established from the time of the Prophet ﷺ. No.
Just like the subha and stuff like that, everything.
Oh, that's something else.
What is it?
No. the beats, you mean?
Yeah.
No. Alhamdulillah. The beats.
Sorry.
No, with the beats, there are different things that I mentioned about them. Now, so some people say yes, it's something that will, if it's there to aid you with the counting and the likes of that. Some scholars actually do mention if it's there where it's absolutely the case you cannot count. Now, but most people are able to count to 33 and 34. And what is important as well in certain cases with these things is that the people do not become attached to these items. Because these items are not essentially from Deen. And so when it comes to, the counting should be done in accordance with the Sunnah of the Messenger of Allah. That's what takes precedence. Count with the fingers. This is what he did. Count with the fingers. This is what takes precedence. And the only exception should be if the person is not able to do so. But this is something which is a rare exception in Allah knows best. The person should be able to do so. And if a person is able to do so and then they still use these beads, then what you do find is something that does occur, that people become attached to the beads. And this is not something which is legislated. The beads are not legislated themselves. Likewise as well, you have the narration of Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, where the people were doing the adhkar, counting with their stones, using the pebbles. And this is the closest likeness that we have to the beads. And even Abdullah ibn Mas'ud would make inkar of people doing so. Right? And so when it comes to different practices in Deen, we look at how did the Prophet ﷺ, first of all, how did he practice the Deen? And how did the Salaf Ṣāliḥ understand these practices? So from the Salaf Ṣāliḥ, of course, are the companions. From the companions, Abdullah ibn Mas'ud. And we have his statement where the people were counting using these pebbles, and the fact that he rejected the actions. So we understand this is how actually towards using such things. So no, that should always be something. That's something that should be avoided.
In that Aiden, the count, like if you count in, like for instance, 300 rather than just 33, and you've got the bead and it's got 100 beads. In that Aiden.
No.
And is that not contradicting with the ayat, the ahruf?
No. The contradiction doesn't.
That's Aiden, isn't it?
No, I understand what you're saying. It doesn't contradict with the ahruf. Why? Because when it comes to, for example, these beads and the likes of that, this is the case of where a person is not able to count. Now, a person is not able to count. Generally speaking, a person is able to count. The example of a person not able to count would be someone maybe they suffer from short-term memory loss or things like this. Now, when it comes to the reading of letters and reading the precisely of letters, then this has become a lot weaker over the years, right? That's one thing. The second thing is that as long as the person is able to recite from the ayat as they should be recited, then he's fulfilling that ibadah. Now, it's not a case of how it's written, the hymn is not in how it's written. The hymn is in the recitation. So the most important thing is the tilawah of Quran. So using that example. The most important thing is the tilawah of Quran. Even to the extent, lil asaf, you may have some people now that they can't read Arabic text. So they use the, what they call transliteration. Roman letters now. And they use the transliteration.
Sometimes. Which can change the meaning.
If they don't read it properly.
It's not very precise.
It's not precise, no. That's what I'm saying. It's something that the person should avoid anyway. But let's say, for example, they are able to read it. Some people are able to read it perfectly. Now, with these letters. They shouldn't rely upon it, but they're able to read it perfectly. Then they fulfilled that aspect of recitation of Quran. They recited the Quran. Now, and that's what it's sought from us. That's the ibadah. However, when it comes to these particular beads, then these beads are not something which is legislated. Now, and then as we mentioned, going back to the athar of Ibn Mas'ud, that he would reject that particular action. Now, that specific action. So it's not something where there's an equivalence can be made between the two, because we have the Salaf and how they reacted towards this particular action of counting. Because, as we said, the person should be able to count with the fingers, and this is how the Prophet ﷺ did so. And if he did it like this, then we know this is the best way to do so. Now. لا بس لا لا شيخ تسمع جزاك الله خير.
شر الأمور محدثاتها.
نعم.
كل محدثة بدعة.
نعم.
بس محدثة شر الأمور محدثاتها. بس محدثة. محدثة is a newly invented affair. So it comes from the word hadith. The word hadith linguistically means jadid. Okay? So the word hadith means jadid, new. And muhdath is something which has been brought about, brought to new. So the muhdith is the one that has brought something new. So every newly invented affair is a bid'ah. Someone that's newly invented affair in Islam, then it's a bid'ah, it's an innovation.
Sorry, Shaykh, that goes back to the ahruf on the, because that wasn't on the time of the Prophet.
No.
So does that not goes back to that?
No.
Because what, like who? Do you know? I don't have knowledge who actually put the ahruf on the Quran. But I presume it's years after the Prophet.
So now, are you talking about the nuqat? Are you talking about the harakat? Which?
Everything, because from what I know, from the Shaykh that I heard it from, he says the Quran, it didn't have any harakat. Sorry, did I say ahruf before?
Harba.
Sorry, harakat.
Harakat,
al-shad, wal-mad, all them. Yeah, it didn't have none of that.
True.
And years later, like you said, to make it easier for people to tajweed and all that, they put that huruf on there.
Yes.
Harakat, sorry.
Yes.
Does that not, it's bid'ah?
No, because you're not saying now that this is enhancing your ibadah, for example, or is part of your ibadah. Now, we're talking about, remember, going back to age, it's aiding you in reading Quran, right? With the example of bid'ah, clearest example I'll give you, a person who says, I don't want to pray Isha, it's Isha now, I don't want to pray Isha 4 rak'ah, I think it's better for me to pray 5.
That's going against the rules completely.
But it's bid'ah.
Of course.
No. But to give you a clear example, right? And this goes against directly what would be of our benefit. Because the Prophet ﷺ is legislated for us 4 rak'ah. This is the best thing for us to do. Salat al-Isha, pray 4 rak'ah. Person now says I'm going to pray 5. No. There's nothing. What he's saying within that is that I know better than what the Prophet ﷺ legislated, of course. When we're talking about these harakat, we're not now saying that it's better for us to have these harakat. Now, what we're saying is, in order to aid the person in reading, yes, a harakat. For example,
Ain't that bid'ah?
no, because we're not saying that this is no. We're not saying that this is increasing us in ibadah. Now, we're not saying, for example, we know we've got the color-coded musahif for understanding the rules of tajweed. Now, that because it's color-coded, that this is increasing us in ibadah. For example, when a person, he might use initially he'll use the color-coded musahif. When he becomes proficient in tajweed, he's not going to use those anymore. Right? But so we're not going to say now that this is something which has been brought into religion, or that has been brought into the ibadah. It enhances his ibadah, or it makes his ibadah better because he uses this. Now, essentially the bid'ah is a person saying, we're going to do this action to enhance that which we have already. Right? For example, the practice of celebrating the Prophet's birthday, Now, they say that we celebrate the Prophet's birthday to get closer to Allah. Or we say celebrate the Prophet's birthday to show our love for him. But it should have been legislated by the companions, and what we know from the companions how they showed their love for him. So we cannot now say we're going to do this action to enhance that which is done before. So this is essentially what the bid'ah is, that they said they want to enhance that which is already present. So when we go back to the brother's question, it says, the muhdafat, newly invented affairs, newly invented affairs that are brought about to enhance that which is already there. And this is why bid'ah is so evil. Because you're saying that you want to enhance that which is already there. That which is already there has come from the Prophet ﷺ. So it cannot be enhanced. It cannot be enhanced. So what we're saying now is that you by you saying you're enhancing that which is already there, is that you are coming with that which is better than that which the Prophet ﷺ came with. Which is, of course, evil in its meaning. Of course. Now, that's the clearest one I can think of. Does it make sense?
Yes, yes.
Barakallah feek.
Also, Quranic word, they made out of like words, like nasta'in. Known of nasta'in is nahnu. It's whole word. One letter is whole word. How many, like in Quran, how many words are like these?
That's the whole language, is like.
Is it the whole language?
The language, this is, says this is sub. Got exam on Tuesday, by the way. It says it's a sub. So the letters will change depending upon who you're referring to. This is the Arabic language. This is the nature of the Arabic language. No. But yeah, cool. جزاكم الله خير يا إخوة. بارك الله فيكم. صلى الله وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. وآخر دعوانا الحمد لله رب العالمين.